Sarah, thank you for being here today. I'm really excited to have you here as part of the summit. Um, so today I've got Sarah. Sarah, you are the founder of Sacred Ally, a beautiful space right here in Missoula, Montana. As I understand it, your pathway into healing began in 2001 as with your curiosity into the realms of energy. From there, you have developed skills as a sacred space holder, a Reiki master, a guide and visionary breath work, a combo practitioner, which is how I came to know you. For those of you listening, I met Sarah about a year ago when I dove into a lunar cycle of this very cleansing practice. We might talk about that a little
Mhm.
bit today, but like I said, I just want to thank you for
Mhm.
being with us. And as we start off, I really want to invite you to tell us your story. How did you come to found this delightful space in Missoula? And what was your pathway into the healing arts?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you, Dawn. Thank you for the introduction and thank you for just inviting me into this magical space of co-creation with all the other fabulous speakers that will be on this summit. Thank you for creating this.
Well,
Um, yeah, in my bio on my website, it says that I kind of founded and came across healing in the early 2000s, but uh, I should really edit that. It really came to me when I came Earthside when I was born. Um, it was clear that I had a contract when I came into this life that I was here to seek beauty and I was here to create beauty in the world through being of service, through healing and empowerment. So, really, my entire life has been in that thread and in that vein of just seeking the magic and seeking the mystery. And through that, coming into resonance with how I want to offer that into the world through the different modalities. It was always my dream to have a center someday. And, it really was meeting my beloved Peter, who is co founder of Sacred Ally, uh, that it landed. Like our energies coming together and just where we were at in life really was the catalyst for putting Sacred Ally as it is now into the world as a community center. Um, and we're about 6 years old in that endeavor and thriving. We've just moved into a new location and we've got 9 practitioners. We have a community space offering various just sacred events. We're opening Missoula's first cacao bar and just various other modalities. So it's grown quite big, and we're just loving being in service in this way and creating a collective where other magic makers can come in and offer their service as well.
so beautiful. Um, okay, so one of the things that we talked about before, which I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on, because to me, it's what Sacred Ally represents, is a space for community healing. I mean, of course, individual healing, but the individual heals in the context of sacred community.
Mhm.
And I'd love to know how the importance of sacred community became apparent to you. And and really I'd like to know your thoughts on what defines a community that is healing and nourishing from a community that might not be of service in that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, Safety. A community of healing is based in safety, is in creating really powerful and safe containers where people feel safe to be authentic. We always welcome people to come as they are. So every single event, class, ceremony, we start with setting the stage around safety, inviting people to remove their mask, inviting people to show up as they are. I mean, the first ritual of any opening is inviting people into their heart, and just being an authenticity of whatever is alive there. So we welcome people to come as they are. And in a lot of our classes, ceremonies, events, we always start with a sharing aspect. So everyone gets to speak into the container. And that's the most important and powerful part, is because then everyone sees how much we have in common, that there's actually a common thread running through all of us. Many of us live so isolated. Even when we're in families, we can feel isolated in our own human experience. So when we come together in those specific spaces and speak what's on our heart or speak our vulnerabilities, our fears, and then hear it come out of the mouth of every other person there, it makes us realize how connected we are and that we're not so weird or different or that something isn't wrong.
Absolutely. That's really wonderful to think about. Like you referred to the mask that gets taken
Mhm.
off, this place for authenticity. What do you witness in these spaces?
Authenticity. Exactly that. We witness the masks coming off. We witness the tears and people are always apologizing, like, "Oh, I'm so," they'll shed tears and they'll apologize, and we're like, thank you for the tears." Um, so we witness people being real, we witness people being honest, but through that honest and that honesty and that vulnerability, we witness community connection, and we witness healing through that. Through people being able to speak it, to be able to relate with others. And then, of course, we move into the event and the ceremony and the facilitation of being able to work with that and perhaps meditate or channel or release or whatever the modality that we're working with is. People are able to move those things through the body. And some of those feelings are meant to be kept. And so we create spaces to embrace them and honor them and really integrate them in the body. And some of them are just old, they're just outdated, they're no longer alive. So we also create spaces where that stuff can be released and moved.
And then with the people who are part of your community, I'm assuming that you know some of us, right, well enough to see what happens in the rest of our life, right, when we become integrated in a community like
Mhm,
this. So, like, as we think about the healing journey, I think you and I know well, it's not just what happens in the hour of
mhm, mhm,
ceremony or even the
mhm,
weekend of
mhm,
ceremony if it's a retreat experience, but it taps into something that often continues to unfold. And then when we can stay connected to these communities and they continue to nourish us, that unfolding happens in a variety of ways. And so, can you speak to how you see these shifts like in people's lives because of that sacred connection?
yeah. I see shifts every day. And we have a saying at Sacred Ally: when you shift, I shift. When you shift, they shift. When we shift, they shift. So every single shift that happens ripples out, right? Any shift that happens to you in any moment shifts the experience of everything around you, right? You're seeing through that lens, through that new and expanded perception. And so when you walk out the doors, right, into the rest of your life and bump up against, you know, the norms, the family, the work, all those things that are kind of looping, it's like we wake up, we do it, we repeat. When we bump into those things, we see those things with new eyes. And so we're able to experience them from new perceptions. And also, when we come from a community of connection and then we bump into people in the world that aren't as connected, our openness is the invitation for them to open. So, again, just our shift in turn ripples into shifts in the others that we come into contact with.
What about from your personal story? I actually, I mean, I don't know much about the family that you came from, and I find myself curious, I guess, because with a lot of the patients that I work with, for example, sometimes their closest friends, their significant other, or their family members are the obstacle that they have to overcome, in a sense, in this healing journey. Right?
Mhm.
I find that a lot of times we're part of communities that like to keep us as they know us, as they've always known us. And it occurs to me, and actually, I mean, I've experienced it through my yoga community, with my work with you at Sacred Ally, and in some other places, that having another community that calls forth a more authentic expression
Mhm.
can help to kind of create a counterbalance. But I'm curious from your own journey, did you need to create that community for yourself? Or are you just one of the blessed few that grew up in in sacred spaces, or this was easy? Or did you find that that part of creating these communities and containers for other people came out of knowing what it's like to not have them?
That is a great question, and all of those scenarios exist. However, I was blessed to be brought up in a sacred upbringing. I grew up here in Missoula, and I was raised in a lot of the Lakota, the Native American traditions. So from a young age, I was steeped in Indigenous transitions or traditions where we were honoring transitions. Uh, and we weren't raised religious. I never had religion. My mom was very spiritual. So that being said, we were just open to explore uh, all of it. You know, I didn't have any conditioning from a young age. So from a very young age, I was just seeking the mystery. And so community gathering in that way came easily to me. When I was young, I grew up, my mom, I was raised by a single mom, but so she leaned into her spiritual communities. So when I was a child, I remember being in living rooms with people reading books and having spiritual discussions and playing guitar and playing music and such. So all of that stuff came second nature to me. So um, yeah, I feel like I was blessed that it was a thread throughout my life. And so it comes easily to me to create this type of community for others.
And what about what you observe for people coming into that space, right? Like, I
Yeah.
mean, you talked about safety, saying from the very beginning, creating a space for authenticity. Um, but I'm curious about what you observe in the person who sort of tiptoes in, wondering, Is this for me? Can I belong?" It seems kind of weird, right, in comparison to the norm,
Yeah.
what I'm used to. Um, yeah, and then just to talk more about the vitality that emerges as somebody allows themselves to be in community.
Yeah. 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 We get that all the time. I mean, I would almost dare to say every event or ceremony we do, there is at least one person who comes in and says, I'm totally out of my comfort zone right now. I almost didn't come. Or we have the husband that was right dragged there by their wife or something. And in almost every single scenario, that person leaves so full in their heart and coming up afterwards just saying thank you. And I think the idea of what people have in their head in these spaces is different than what it actually is, because what it actually is just a channel and an invitation deeper into your own self, right? Like nothing's happening to you. It's just these spaces where you get to deepen into yourself in a really held and beautiful way. And so anytime we expand our comfort zone, right, or step outside our limit, we're liberated. We leave feeling that much more free, and the possibilities are that much more bigger, right? Like we have these confines, and every time we step out, like every time I feel like we run into fear, you know, again, unless it is the bear or the lion chasing you or whatever, anytime we bump into fear, I always say that's the green light. That is the green light to move forward because that's an edge. And we want to expand beyond those edges. So if you can move through that discomfort, most of the time you find that, wow, it's not so scary as you thought. And then secondly, you reach another level of liberation. And then it's like, what's next? We're just constantly, right, growing and expanding. And we're always calling in those things that are going to invite us into that, right? That thing that's the edge or the, you know, moving past the comfort zone. Those things are going to keep coming. So we're always faced with those opportunities. But yeah, it's really beautiful watching the blooming and blossoming of people coming into these spaces that are new to this time of work or new to doing it in community.
One of the things that I observe is that the expansion that we seek is also the thing that we're afraid of.
Mhm.
And so I'm curious about, again, like leaning on your observation. How do you help people move through, right? You just said the fear is the green light.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like I said, what I often observe is that it's the resist, like we think that the resistance is the hard part. right? But
Mhm.
often I find the resistance is that expansion on the other side. Can I be this big?
Yeah.
Can I be this bright? Marianne Williams quote, like, who am I to be this powerful?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, talk to us about how community can support that kind of expansion, like really authorizing permission to be that vibrant, that bold, that bright, that energized.
Yeah.
How, how, I mean, I guess for me, it's like it's really difficult to do when you're all by yourself.
Mhm.
And it's so much easier to do in the right community.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
talk to us about that.
Well, first of all suffering does lie in the resistance. Like everything that we're struggling and suffering in is the resistance to some experience that we're having in our life. Um, Also in our spaces, while we speak to this, right? We set the setting of the ceremony or the event or the space, and we speak to the safety and we get everyone grounded in through their breath, through some meditation. So we start by getting the container right, but then we lean into the modality. So whether it's breath work, whether it's sound, whether it's plant medicine, we lean into the sentient wisdom of those modalities. The modalities are what take people through the process of alchemy and expansion and liberation and stuff. So that's why I call myself a sacred ceremonialist, right? I create the space, I create the safety, I create the beauty, all these elements. But then I get to let go and let the modality that we're working with really be the teacher and the guide. And what's so beautiful is most of these modalities are really tapping people into their own spirit and their own wisdom, which is truly, right, the teacher and the guide. Um, I will definitely say that most of the modalities that we're drawn to are the breakthrough modalities, like the visionary breath work. It's like clarity, holotropic, right? People have these really profound, sometimes intense experiences, but it moves a lot of debris in the body. It gets into the subconscious mind where we can really move and rewire some of those patterns. Same with the plant medicines, right? They're just these like some people call them shortcuts, and there's even certain people that say, that's cheating, the shortcut. But the truth is, the time was yesterday. The time is now. We don't have much more time. So these shortcuts are welcome, these powerful modalities where people can get there quicker. So
They're often a lot of work too. No, I sometimes think that people who call them shortcuts haven't experienced the intensity that they can that they can bring.
yeah, yeah, shortcut
Yeah.
definitely doesn't mean easy. And it doesn't mean bypassing. You're right. Like it takes showing up fully and
Yeah.
being in it
Is it
and
takes an
shedding and
experience
letting
that could be this long and it gives it all of it in a short amount of time, and that just means that your amplitude will be high.
Yes, yes,
Do you have a
exactly.
favorite modality, Sarah?
No, I don't have favorite anythings. The favorite questions are the hardest for me because I find so much love and beauty in so many. Like I've never been a woman who does the one thing, right? There's the idea that master the one thing. I've never been that person. Like I've always loved having so many modalities in my tool belt. Um, I love them all for their unique purpose. Each one plays a different role, and everyone resonates with different things differently. So it's nice having an array of things. But I guess what I will say is I really love Peter and our cacao and sound journeys. And we've been doing these for several years, and I love them because, well, it's in service and we're able to channel and play and channel our creativity, but we receive it as well. So even though we're the ones making the sound and making the journey, we're receiving it at the same time. So when we come out on the other end, we're like right there with everyone else, like coming out and just feeling, you know, every other modality we do is a little bit different, right? We come out and we're still like holding space for the other person, but the sound journeys are the one where we come out and we're like right in there with the people that have received. So that one's unique in that way.
So great. I
Yeah.
would love to talk to you about your relationship with Peter. So, you referred to him earlier as your beloved, and you even said that it's through the connection in your relationship that you were able to birth Sacred Ally, this
Mm,
sacred space.
yeah.
And so, what I'd love to hear about is how that kind of partnership, like I would call it sacred partnership,
Mm,
has allowed for your most authentic and true expression to come into the world.
mhm.
And then, if you can, to connect that to your own sense of vitality, like what it has done for you to bring your purpose to fruition.
Yeah, yeah. So I'll start with that last part first. Being in a partnership that is so safe and held in the sacred has allowed me to blossom, has allowed me it's like I don't have to expend any energy, and is the relationship solid? Are we on the same page? Are we doing, it's like I feel so safe and held in my relationship that all of my energy can go to blossoming and blooming and in service. And I shouldn't say all of it, my energy, a lot of it goes to, right, the cultivation of this sacred relationship. Uh, and yeah, it absolutely is a sacred relationship. When we came together with the intention that we are going to grow, right? We're not going to continue to be the people that we were when we met, that we are here to watch and support each other grow, that we won't get stagnant. We are both on spiritual paths. And anyone who's on a spiritual path, especially in a sacred partnership, knows it's a lot of work. Like nothing is mundane, nothing gets boring, nothing gets stagnant because we're always growing and we're always seeking. But at the heart of it, we are recognizing each other as souls, right? We're here on our own individual soul journey, and holding it for each other. Um, and so there's a lot of compassion. There's a lot of readjusting. There's a lot of learning each other over and over and over. There's like we're constantly recalibrating. So it's not a decision. We came together, we get married, now we're going to work and do our thing, and it's just this thing, right? We're constantly catering to the movement. It's got a life of its own. So yeah, I think again, I feel like at the foundation of everything for all this work is people feeling safe. And that's at the foundation of our partnership is we feel fully safe with each other. We know we're fully in for each other. We know that we're fully in for ourselves. So he knows I'm committed to my work and that I'm showing up in the best way I can. And I trust that he's committed in his work and showing up the best that he can.
Is that something that you consciously created? Like you said that when you came together, it was for the purpose of growth. I guess I find myself curious, for people who are listening, I'm just going to use the word normal, right? But we're in what we commonly see, right? Like we said, I do. Now we're in this thing. What I see in my practice all the time is that like we're kind of moving along at the same pace, and then one person is like, oh, I am now going to invest in my well-being, in my expression, right? And there's a turn. And so I'm curious if you have wisdom, guidance, something that you can share for like, how do you handle some of the renegotiation that's
Mhm.
necessary, like collaborating from new places, making space for new experiences, new levels
Yeah,
of
yeah,
expression.
yeah. Well, first of all, when we came together, there was a resonance between us that the level of love we were feeling, and we'd both been married before, we've both lived an entire lifetime of dating and relationship, we have a whole life under our belt. But when we came together, there was a resonance in our love that we knew and we felt that our love was actually going to be the catalyst for our service. Like we knew we were going to be in service together and that the foundation of it actually was our love. That all of the service, the modalities, whatever it was going to be through the heart, through this sense of love that we had for each other. It's like I have my love, I'm in my heart, he has his love, he's in his heart. But when we came together, it was just like, it was just magnified, it was bigger. And so we felt like that was the foundation for our service. Um, we get the feeling that a lot of people have ideas about our relationship and what a couple we are. We go through the fire just like everybody else. Just because we're conscious, just because we're committed, does not mean that we don't run into the same issues and go through the fire like everybody else out there. Um, we communicate. I mean, communication is the biggest piece, and we're not taught it. So I think there's a lot of relationships and marriages happening out there where there's just a lack of maturity in the level of communication. So hearing and witnessing isn't happening, just traumas, immature, wounds, the ways we communicated from when we grew up, like all this stuff comes up. And gets in the way of the true connection trying to be had, or what's needing to be heard, or what's needing to be addressed. So communication is key. So if you're having communication errors, like go get help, go get help. We've gotten help. Like, yeah, we haven't done it all on our own. We've seen, we currently see, she's a intuitive relationship coach. So what's important is that you find someone that speaks your language, that you vibe with, that you feel, has competent tools and such. But get help. I mean, get help before you even need the help. That way it's just normalized that, you have someone in your court. It's inevitable that anyone that is doing intimate relationship or long-term relationship is going to run into things, especially when we're all changing all of the time. So, um,
I love this thing that you just said, like normalize the need for help.
yeah, yeah,
Don't expect to do it on your own. Don't
yeah,
feel bad and wrong if you're doing it on your own and it's not working.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
exactly.
so you mentioned this intuitive relationship coach, but I actually find myself thinking for your other work as a space holder,
Hmm.
where do you go to plug yourself in so that you can continue to hold more and more powerful space
Hmm.
for people's healing
I mean,
journey?
like where do I self-care? Where do I fill my cup up? Is that what you're?
Yes. How do you source? How do you expand so
Yeah.
that you can continue to offer bigger and bigger experiences?
Yeah. First and foremost, I get my cup filled by my own personal practices, which I feel blessed and lucky enough are the foundation of my service as well. So when I take the time to be with myself and to do my own practices, my own meditations, my own spiritual contemplations, most of all, spending time in nature where I get most of my downloads and teachings just from the natural world. Uh, those are the ways that my cup is filled the most in anchoring ways, right? There's different ways to fill up your cup. Those are the ways that I maintain feeling grounded and anchored. But then I also get my cup filled up through community, through the very community that we're creating. Part of our new space is that like we've kind of mastered this art of like creating the safe and sacred ceremonies and spaces, but we also want to bring in the fun and the play and the joy and the connection. So we're bringing back more opportunities to dance and move our bodies. And that's why we added the cacao bar. So there's a cafe where people can come and sip the cacao and also connect and talk and relate and such. So community is a big one for getting the cup filled.
You talked about your daily practices.
Mhm.
I wonder if you could speak to the importance of ritual in the healing journey.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, well, I'll use that to segue back a minute when you were talking about Peter and I and sacred relationship and what it takes to keep and cultivate that, and or when things rub. And I spoke to communication, but the other side of that coin is personal practice. It's your relationship to your spirit. It's your relationship to God in whatever way God means to you, source, creation, spirituality. Having a deep relationship with those things is, I think, half the work in a sacred partnership is deepening your sense of satisfaction within your own life and your own heart and your own spirit. Um, Wait, remind me, I got off on that tangent. Remind me what it was something about my personal
So great
practices.
ritual
Yeah.
in the healing journey.
Yes, yes, yes.
But I also want to highlight or invite you to say more about how important it is to, I think you said self-satisfied,
Mhm,
right? To
mhm,
like really be living a life that pleases you.
mm,
Even
mhm,
earlier, you talked about dance and how
mhm.
important fun and joy is. So like you can dance with them right now, weave them together. The idea of ritual, loving your own life, making space for play and joy. Like talk to us about all of it and
Yeah,
how it relates to health and healing and energy and
yeah.
vitality.
This, what you're talking about is actually the master practice. Because again, going back to the you shift, they shift, right? The more we can shift our internal experience and the way we're perceiving life and the magic of life, whether it's with our own spirit and loving ourselves and loving hanging out with ourselves or loving what we're creating in life, the more we can shift that, the more everything around us will shift, including our sacred partnership or our kids or our work environment or whatever it is. So the master practice really is in the self cultivation, and ritual for me is at the foundation of all of my practices and all my services. And what ritual means to me is believing in the magic. Like the world is magic. Like I know there's so much suffering going on right now because we're in a birth, we're in a transition. Everything is crumbling, everything is changing. It feels quite scary, it feels quite uncomfortable, but it is so on time because things are changing. There is awakening happening. And so the more we can lean into the magic and see the beauty and cultivate these practices, whether it's like lighting your candle and doing your ecstatic dance for an hour, or feeding healthy food in your body, or connecting with your sisters or your brothers, or what have you, um, the more joy that we bring into our lives. And I feel like via the work that I do, I have a pulse on the community. I have a pulse on the collective because I work with so many people, whether it's in individual sessions or community settings. There's a theme. And the theme is that people are tired right now. There's a lot going on. The dials are up. Everything feels kind of serious and intense. And there is a place for that, but it cannot override the joy and the magic that's still going on. And I know your whole summit is about finding right pleasure. We can't hate ourselves into pleasure. And so again, it is coming back to like, what do we want in our lives? Like, what do we want to focus on? And can we cultivate those rituals and ceremonies that bring the magic and the sacred back into our lives through dance, through meditation, through working with a cup of cacao, through communing in communities that are like-minded and creating places to heal, joy, let go, so that ultimately we can feel love again. Like let love lead. Can we be happy? Can we receive happiness? Despite all this change, right? And the intensity and the things going on, can we receive joy? We have another saying at Sacred Ally that even though we're like, yeah, welcome all your shit, how good can it get? We're constantly asking people, how good can it get? And the answer to that is based on how much we will allow ourselves to receive. How good can we allow it to get? Where
Yeah.
are we putting our attention? How are we treating our sacred bodies and our lives and our relationships?
Yes, that is exactly, I think, what you just articulated was what I was, I guess, exploring earlier. This idea that like we limit our own, it's like, oh, we think that the scary part is the resistance, but maybe the scary part is like, can I really feel that good? Can I allow myself to have that much energy? So, okay, correct me if I'm wrong, but what I hear you say about ritual and daily practice, I'm connecting almost to intention,
Mhm,
like being connected to the thing you're doing
mhm, mhm,
so that it is an opportunity for joy
mhm,
and love. Right? Like you
mhm,
can almost do the exact same thing, but you can do something in a way where you're just going through the motions, you're just getting it
mhm,
done,
mhm, mhm,
or you're bringing your whole self,
mhm,
to the movement, to the breath, to the lighting of the candle, to your walk in the woods.
Well said.
And then through that, right, we connect to love, to joy.
Mhm.
How do you support people in increasing their capacity to receive and allow?
I think through creating spaces where people are slowing down and stepping into that intention that you were just talking about. Left to their own devices, people, they will just cycle in the hamster wheel, just wake up, repeat, wake up, repeat, wake up, repeat. So what's really powerful about these spaces is you come into a space outside of the normal where you completely slow down, you completely disconnect, and you touch base with your heart and where your spirit is at. And I think the more that we can connect with that, the more that, yeah, that things will change in our outside life.
Where is the role of ritual
Mhm.
in the healing journey?
Yeah, well, Dawn, I think that you really said it so eloquently that the role is in intention and bringing more intention and just being more purposeful with how we're moving through our life, whether that's with our thoughts or whether that's with our speech, how we're relating to others, just being more intentional and more purposeful. Um, and again, I think you just said it perfectly around that's part of what ritual and ceremony is coming into spaces where we are being fully present with what we're doing and what we're thinking and who we're communing with. And
I have another question, and Sarah, I want to warn you, I think it's going to be a hard question to answer, but
okay.
I'm really curious on your thoughts, and I don't know anyone better to answer it than you. So, as you know, not everybody listening to this series is right here in Missoula. And so I find myself thinking, for the person that doesn't have a space like Sacred Ally where they can just step into the safety of a curated community,
Mhm, mhm,
what is it in your experience that actually creates safety? So that if I'm somewhere else and I think, gosh, I'd love to create a small women's group so that I have this place that feels nourishing and
mhm,
supportive of my steps into greater vitality.
mhm,
Where
mhm,
might I start? Like how do we actually create safety in a group so
mhm.
that that group is nourishing and not draining?
Yeah, so it starts with the individual and it starts within the individual. Safety is cultivated right on the home front first. Is feeling safe within yourself, is trusting yourself, is creating rituals, maybe in your own personal practice and spaces where you're becoming internally sourced and your own intuition is coming online so that you're moving from your own inner compass. So many people are externally sourced, which means they're getting their validation externally, their next move externally, their thoughts on how everything should be extra. Like so much is coming from the outside in. So I think the first place to start is creating spaces to slow down and to come into resonance with your own wisdom, your own knowledge. And once you start to cultivate that, that's usually when you start to feel like, okay, it's time to go out and share, or it's time to go out and gather. Um, and if you are somebody who decides to get together a women's group or any type of community container, um, again, safety always starts with an inside job. If you're the facilitator, if you're the one gathering, like you need to show up and that you are a safe person to show up with, right? Like you're setting the energy of the group. Um, and then speaking to that, just like just opening every circle, every gathering, what have you, with an opportunity for people to drop into themselves again through closing the eyes, breath, check in with the heart, check in with spirit. Where are you? Honor that, love that. Exhale, anything you need to release, let it go. Like just take it takes a few minutes just to drop in with a practice like that. And then speak to the safety. All of you is welcome here. Um,
Thank you for that.
so the setting, just setting the setting. Yeah.
I think it's really important. It's something we talk about in with plant medicine, plant ceremonies, the set and the setting,
Mhm.
the intention.
Yeah.
We just can't skip these steps. No
No.
matter what we're there to heal,
Yeah.
we can't skip this step. I'm curious if you have thoughts on how important intention is. Like if when somebody steps into whether or not it's sound ceremony, breath work, plant medicine, how important is it that they're pointed at something as opposed to away from something? Does that make sense as a question?
Yeah. I put a lot of emphasis and energy into intention. I think intention is super important because again, it's being purposeful and it's bringing our reason to being in an experience to the forefront. And it's also us speaking what do we want out of it. So I feel like there's a lot that happens in intention setting, right? It's like we're taking toll of something, we're anchoring that into a focal point, we're putting it forth into the container so that chances are the reason for being there, right? It holds more energy. Um, that being said, and every modality is different, like we've mentioned, plant medicines. I think it's very important to work with intention with plant medicines. And also sometimes we enter intentions with our head, what we think, right, needs to happen. And with plant medicines and even other modalities, the most important thing is to just be open to what the heart is calling forth and what the heart is needing. Because we can come in with intentions and those are all great. And sometimes something else totally happens because the sentience of the modality that you're interfacing with and the sentience of your own spirit is like, yeah, that's great, dear, but we got to deal with this other thing
We had
first.
another
Like
plan for you.
there is a wisdom that knows the priority. So there might be this intense thing going on. Our mind thinks, oh, my intention is right. We need to clear that, or I want to show up better for that. And then there might be a core thing underneath of that, which is even supporting this intense things happen. That it's like we might need to address that first. So
Like
uh
held with a loose grip.
yes,
You-
yes, exactly. Yeah.
Great. So it's so beautiful. And honestly, the reason that I ask is because so often when I start working with somebody and I say, well, what do you want? They're like, well, I don't want to feel like this, and I don't want to feel like that, and I don't want to feel like that. Right. So I find that simply allowing somebody the opportunity to connect with what's desired,
Yes.
it's very vulnerable, to say, like, I actually want that. This is what
Yeah.
I'm pointed at. I observe is so much more difficult than saying, I don't want this anymore.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It brings up a lot of our insecurities. What if I fail? What if I can't get it? Which is, in my opinion, why being held in that safe container ends up
Yeah.
being so important. Sometimes we don't get what we want, and then being loved through it
Yeah. Yeah.
is
And
really
what you're speaking to is exactly why it's so difficult for so many people to change, because the change happens in the experience of that of what you want. You can identify what you don't want. In fact, that's what most of this life is about, right? Yep, we want that. No, we don't want that. Yep, we want that, right? We just keep, right? Everything just keeps cohesing into this experience that we're calling in. Um, but the healing, the empowerment, the catalyst, the alchemy happens in actually doing or thinking or speaking the things that we want, that we are orienting towards. So it can be vulnerable. And you're right, many people have a hard time even claiming or speaking that. And that's why a lot of people are stuck or finding challenge in shifting
yes,
because it takes the new narrative, actually feeling it, experiencing, living it, doing it.
yes,
So in my work, I honestly don't even spend much time on what's happened, where we want, what we don't want. It is all aligned. Like one of the first things, like when I do a whole healing session, which is energy work and body work, like right at the beginning, close your eyes, tune into your heart, Ask your heart, what is it ready to align with? Right? Nothing else matters. Nothing else matters is except identifying that and then steeping into that and finding the words that support that, the actions that support that, the lifestyle that supports that. That's the healing. That's the empowerment. Mhm.
That it's so important. I love that you do that because you're right. It's like, where do I want to go? And then what do I need to do to get there?
Mhm. Mhm.
And those words, they're hard words for people to hear, but I think that it's so important. Not much else matters.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is the healing. What do you want? And what does it take to get there? Are you willing to let go of everything else?
Mhm. Mhm.
There's ego death, right? Without some plant medicine, right?
Yes. Yes.
Right there. And I do think, I mean, I at least find through my personal experience, being held is
Mhm.
instrumental.
Mhm. Yeah.
It is rarely work to do alone.
Yeah.
So, what
Yeah.
you said earlier about normalizing the need for help, get it
Mhm.
before you need it, find
Mhm.
something that's aligned with you, but like put it in place.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. And that I I'm circling that back to the power of community.
Mhm.
When we do that work in community, it is exponentially more powerful, right? When we're all putting the same intentions into the space. It just magnifies versus if we were just satellite, at home doing these things, it'd be powerful, but you put it together in community and the energy of everyone, it just becomes exponential and that much more powerful. Hands down. I mean, I do individual work and community work all the time. Hands down, the biggest alchemizations happen in community work.
Couldn't agree more.
Mhm.
Small, intimate groups is where the most profound healing happens. Um, okay, so final thought. As you mentioned earlier, right, our central theme is that you cannot hate yourself into health and happiness.
Mhm.
The road to healing must be pleasurable in order to be sustainable. So, we've covered so much ground around sacred community, safety, moving through vulnerability. What would you like to add to this conversation based in any aspect of your journey? What would you like to offer the community in closing?
Yeah, I think that I would invite each of you into a journey of love for yourself. It starts on the home front, like it really does. Everything that you seek begins with an inside job and it begins with loving yourself. And so when we talk about modalities or ceremonies or rituals or whatever the words or the scenario or the experience, the foundation of that is to bring you into a place of love with yourself, of love and acceptance. Um, I think that's when we can truly receive the joy and the pleasure and the health and just the awakenings and the expansions that we wish to receive through love.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your wisdom today. For those of you listening, Sarah offers destination retreats as well as experiences right here in Missoula. So I really encourage you to keep in touch with her and experience some of this magic. It's
Mm,
delightful to have you.
thank you, Dawn. Likewise. Thank you so, so much.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you, everybody.